Hi, everybody. It's very a pleasure for me to be here. Microphone for the translation. Okay. I'm very glad to be here, and thanks, Karen, having forcing me to prepare a presentation in my holidays. And but for those who don't know, in Canada, there is a small Gaulish population called Quebecers who resists strongly the Anglophone assimilation. So we are normally speak in French. So it's the reason why my English is not as fluent as Karen Missing, and probably the same for Céline and my colleagues. I'm very also glad to be here with my team, my research team, Sami, Fettah, and Nadielda, Pastor-Bedard, who are a master student and a postdoctoral fellow. They are the best in the world. I'm Marie Laberge, professor of occupational therapy and ergonomics in the University of Montreal at the rehabilitation school. And it's a great honor to be here. Thanks for the invitation. So as you introduced, my presentation I chose to present. I will read my text because English is not that fluent for me. So I hope that it will be good for the translator. If some problem, just let me know. Today, because translators are also workers, so I care about this. So today I chose to present a part of my research program which focuses on the orientation and the socio-professional integration in health and safety of apprentice students from a Quebec vocational training program called the Work-Oriented Training Path. In particular, I would like to talk about the tools and resources we have developed to equip the stakeholders of this program so that they can properly prepare students for sustainable occupational health and safety at work for the rest of their lives. More specifically, I will address the issue of considering sex and gender when evaluating and planning resources. Okay, next slide. Maybe, Sami, you can help me. They are the greatest in the world. Okay. Our research efforts target the most vulnerable adolescents. I mean, the very young workers, and young adults at risk of being excluded from the labor market. It's a population who are marginalized by various ways, often with little education and little work experience too. They also have little or no vocational skills. Among this group, we pay particular attention to sex and gender issues. So in the Quebec province, many of these young people are referred to the work-oriented training path. This is a high school training program for students who have fallen behind academically and are at risk of leaving school without a high school diploma. For these young people, the Ministry of Education has provided for job preparation starting at age 15 to offer them equal opportunities for employment as an adult. During this training, they complete pre-employment practicums in companies, in real companies, and this is a timely moment to introduce prevention to occupational health and safety. Several of our research studies have focused specifically on this population. So why is this population at risk of occupational injuries? The students who are enrolled in the work-oriented training path are particularly at risk of sustaining occupational disease such as cancer and allergies, for instance, because the manual nature of their work exposes them to many products and substances. First of all, they are very young with no or very little work experience, and many have learning difficulties that can lead to communication and comprehension difficulties. This also applies to occupational health and safety learning skills. A high proportion come from immigration too, As such, we know that they regularly fall between the cracks when it comes to occupational health and safety regulations and prevention access. Other external factors influence their vulnerable situations, such as the fact that the working and employment conditions of these young people are known to induce occupational health and safety risks. They work often in very small businesses. Their tasks are manual. They are handling products and substances that are deleterious on health. About the law. The legal context at the work-oriented training path, we have two laws regulating occupational health and safety in Quebec. One is more about prevention obligation. It's the Act Respecting Occupational Health and Safety. And the other law is more about the indemnization or rehabilitation after disease or an injury, and it's the Act Respecting Industrial Accidents and Occupational Disease. For the work-oriented training pack students, those two laws are interpreted because those students are not paid. They are doing practicum in workplaces, but as they are students, they depend on schools. So the school are the institution who has the obligation for the law. So the schools should ensure the prevention, and the schools should ensure also the rehabilitation rights. And it's why it's tough, because there is a triangular relationship between the school, the students, or students and parents sometimes, and also the workplaces. So it's tough to see where who have the responsibility for occupational health and safety, because the companies give the working conditions, but if something happens, it would be the school who will pay or manage the injury. So that's the particular point for this, the particular context for those students. Just to let you see some of the job that they could do. Okay, I have to apologize for those online, because those videos are confidential material. I have the permission to use it in a scientific event, but it could not be recorded or in the internet, so it will be only for the offline participant. Okay, the first one, it's a young apprentice in a retail store. And just to let you see, he is carry a box on a diable, Karen, how you call this? It's okay. So you can see how tough is it, and there are no experience. It's the first time they use this kind of equipment. There's no space also, and is alone. The second video is a young apprentice's cook preparation. So you see he has a lot of onion to cut, because the clients will eat at noon. So you can see all the hazard can be yeah, okay. Next one. Okay. And the other one is a young woman who as you see, there is box until the end of the word, and the ladder is not enough tall. So, and when the other colleague have the ladder, she cannot use it. So only one ladder for all the. So that's very, very common. I just show you 3 situations. I have 100 hours of video like that, okay? So their job are considered simple and not dangerous by stakeholders because, it's so simple. Everybody could do that, and it's common sense to know how to do that. But as you see, there's a lot of that kind of, oh no. I lost my text. Okay, thank you, Sami. Okay, now, just some example here. Now I will show you 2 other examples. The first one is a young stock handler in a retail store and is carrying a a jigger. Huh? Okay. Oh, doesn't work? Yes. Okay, sorry for the camera. It was me who filming, so it's the reason why. So as you see, the young apprentice has to bring the big boxes in the store. It's TV box and is handling it with a jigger, and it's important to be careful because the products are very fragile. So, and there is clients in the store, so you must take care of clients and not hitting. Okay. Okay, you can switch the next because I think the time is okay. The next is a stock handler too, but in a cloth. It's a woman in a cloth store. So as you see, she's doing that for hours long. So folding clothes and ensuring that it's very clean and all equal. And also she has to look in front of the store because many clients can steal merchandise. So she watch all the time the clients to ensure that nobody will steal. So, and this is hour long. Okay. It's here you just saw a typical male and female kind of job that they could select. So as you can see, the work is more stationary in the second one. And this job seems very easier at least, without any constraints. But if you look more carefully for the second video, we know that she can keep the same posture for hour long. Her attention is divided between her task, the clothes must be folded meticulously, and monitoring the customers who come and go from the store. She keeps watch because shoplifting is common in this store. And this job is the job, in the job repertory, is the same as the man, okay? It is called stock handler, and it's the same skill, arrange merchandise in the sales area. So for what does it mean, okay? So, oops. So for an external eye, we could think that they are both doing the same thing, just reading the description of the task. But when you observe them, you see that it is obvious that they are in 2 very distinct situations in terms of job requirements and dangers. The fact that they have the same job description in the directory leads the school supervisor who place and oversee them to believe that the requirements are the same and that their training is similar. Even more, in the last examples, it's not only the same job title, but also the same skill description, which is displaying merchandise in the store. Okay. But when internship supervisors read only the job description, they might think that the job requirements are the same for young women and men. However, they are very specific, and care must be taken to train the teachers in training practices adapted to this distinct context according to gender. Okay, when we start to study this population 15 years ago, stakeholders did not recognize gender difference and were afraid to differentiate their approach between male and female apprentices, as they felt it might lead to discrimination. So, however, they had very distinct supervisory approaches between highly masculine and highly feminine work environments. We worked with them to broaden their understanding of differentiate approach. For example, including as are typical of female and male jobs in their training. We also trained them to distinguish between formal versus actual job and formal versus actual equality too. So at the beginning of this research program, we know that the population is majority of men, and the prevention priority of stakeholders when we started this program was sudden injuries, not cancer or MSD, or because they were young, and also the prevention targets were exclusively attitude, risk-taking, and recklessness. But as you saw, a lot of working conditions must be carefully planned and given, because it's not only a question of attitude. So we enlarge this comprehension and preconception of work, and this way of enlarging the way of seeing this problem, occupational health and safety problem, made the stakeholders aware of gender considerations. So we did it over the years. So is teaching is the best way to ensure? Oh, it's not the okay. Well, okay. Is teaching the best way to ensure the prevention of occupational injuries? The Warren is not the right. It's the last version of my presentation. So scientific data shows that the strategy of behavioral change is not the most effective to prevent injury in the workplace. For our work-oriented training path students who are just accepted as trainees in companies, it is difficult to force or even suggest the most efficient strategies of engineering or eliminating risk at the very root, because the workplaces are giving a gift to the teacher to accept the apprentice. So it's tough to ask them to change or to re-engineer to change the work situation at the very root. So we therefore had to imagine ways to prevent injuries by ricochet. For instance, by targeting also people around who are responsible for these young apprentices and who must ensure that they do not get injured at work. Teachers, for instance, or supervisors in the workplace. So supervising teachers are school-based, but they can go to they visiting the workplaces once a week. So it's a pivotal stakeholders for occupational health and safety obligation. So given this context, our team focused on training and supporting those responsible for protecting apprentices. Internship supervisors have been our key stakeholders over the years in preventing injuries among apprentices. We train them in empowerment-based training approaches and interventions in workplace, aiming to improve learning conditions to support the development of professional skills and occupational health and safety, both being interconnected. We also train the teacher to recognize that the culture of male and female professions impact training and the preventive measures offered, as the hazards found in female professions are often underestimated. We explain that distinct approaches and training contents based on sex and gender is not inequity. On the contrary, achieving equity requires approaches tailored to the specific context of each individual. Next. Okay. So, since 2021, the Canada Research Chair in Work Disability Prevention from Adolescents has been focusing on the harms and benefits of work for adolescents. The chair aims to prevent disability from adolescents in two ways. First, reducing occupational injuries, and second, ensuring that workplaces enable marginalized young people with low education levels and multiple discrimination factors, such as immigrant status or socioeconomic status. Additionally, the chair proposes to develop robust theoretical frameworks to better differentiate interventions based on gender by involving stakeholders. Those are the three objectives of the chair. And for the next part of the presentation, my colleagues will present some example of what we are doing in the lab. So now I stop and I will hand over to my two colleagues. Sami will present the study Early Prevention of Occupational Cancers in the Job-Oriented Training Path, Perspective of Internship Supervision and Employers.
Hi everybody, so I'm Sami. I'm really glad to be here and proud, so thank you for the invitation. So here's an example of research that led us to work on the creation and dissemination of tools to support occupational health and safety. I go over this really quickly, but essentially we conducted interviews with teachers from the work-oriented training path and employers who host students for internships. And we questioned their practices and perspectives on occupational health and safety, assessed the available resources and barriers while taking sex and gender into consideration. And so the results, and I'm going to go with this too. Yeah, the interviews highlighted several key points. For example, among the teachers, we observed the form of gender socialization related to safety behaviors. Indeed, some of them believe that boys, for example, exhibit less safe behaviors than girls. We also noticed that internships are often assigned based on gender, with girls predominantly placed in positions such as florists or customer service, and on the other hand, boys are more likely to be in mechanics or industrial internships. And finally, we noted a lack of knowledge or difficulties in offering inclusive and adapted teaching methods to accommodate the diverse profiles of students. So that's for the teachers, and then on the other hand, we have the employers, and we observed among them that most internship employers believe that occupational health and safety is not influenced by sex or gender in any way, that prevention based on these criteria is unnecessary for them, but, and that's interesting, the interviews reveal that some employers express point of views that lean towards sexual differentiation in terms of behavioral or physiological aspects. So, for example, there was one employer who believed that a woman would face more difficulties in a traditional garage because tasks required physical strength, and that one could be a good mechanic but still not have enough strength to do the work properly. So we have some dissonance here. And also, so with all these elements in mind, we considered several avenues for change and improvement. Here are a few examples. We are working on implementing ongoing training to raise awareness on certain topics for work-oriented training path teachers, particularly on cancer risks. We also worked on creating a guide to assist employers who host interns. This guide offers an inclusive approach for individuals with health challenges, whether it's physical or psychological, sorry. And finally, for all stakeholders, we suggest raising awareness on providing support in identifying, sorry for my pronunciation, and assessing workplace risks. This could take many forms, several forms, such as training, for example, workshops, or certification. So all these improvements, strategies incorporate dynamics related. Oh, nope. I'm going forward, and I don't want to. Is it? Once again, yeah, okay. And I'll just finish with this. These improvement strategies incorporate dynamics related to sex and gender to offer more inclusive and tailored preventive actions. So thank you for listening to me, and I'm gonna give my colleague the mic.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us. It's really appreciated. So, in this part of the project, we wanted to integrate the perception of risk and prevention to current literature. So we did a scoping review, and then we did individual and group interviews with students. So for their scoping review, we wanted to know what are the primary prevention approaches for cancer, occupational cancer prevention, so either with adolescents or with workers. Then we, for the individual group interviews, we wanted to understand perception of cancer risk, hazards, OHS, resources, prevention, etc. for the students. So for the students' perception, they only identified exposure to chemicals in their workplace if an incident had already happened and that they saw it. But they did not think it was associated necessarily with a carcinogen exposure or with cancer. So usually the cleaning tasks where they might inhale carcinogens or touch chemicals or anything, they were presumed to be safe even when we observed they are not. And so they perceive that prevention is not needed, prevention programs are not needed because there's no immediate hazard for developing eventually cancer, and that cancer cannot be really prevented in the workplace. They also thought if there were to be a prevention program, they thought that experienced workers or employers were the best people to teach them about it because they know their work, and also that programs should be implemented in the workplace. So when we look at the literature, we saw that there's a lack of occupational cancer prevention program, especially for young workers. And so when combined with the fact that students do not see that their prevention is needed, we see like that students are, not enough work is done to prevent cancer from a young age. Then the literature is I'm really sorry about that. So when there's programs for cancer, it's mainly implemented by researchers or professionals, by lecturers or education, but not by training in the workplace and not by the employers or the workers themselves, which is not what students think would be efficient for them. And lastly, when there is a differentiation in intervention, it's most often by cancer types, which can be sex and or gender specific, for example, prostate or cervical cancer, but it's not differentiated by gendered exposition to carcinogens, which would be important for example, cancers are not specific to sex or gender.
So thank you to my colleagues for the great work. I don't know if I think we spent too much time.
우리 캐나다에서 오셨기 때문에 발표 시간.
But just because, nonetheless, we did give you 20 minutes, and you did go over time, but nonetheless, you traveled a long distance, so I gave you a little bit more of a leeway.
It's appreciated.
더 있습니까? Is there more slides?
Was there more that you had to present?
네, 그 줌으로 들어오시는 분은
Those of you on Zoom would not have seen the video, but you had some young people working And there were videos showing some precarious situations. So, for example, they work in very narrow spaces, or the handling of knives, which looked really risky. And also a girl climbing up a ladder. And so you showed us some videos. So yeah, it made us realize that even from a very young age, we need more awareness about the occupational health and safety. If you have any questions, burning questions, please go ahead now.
네, 저기.
So there's somebody at the other end of the room. Hello, I'm from the Korean Women Workers Association. You talked about training about identifying the different hazardous substances or material, and you also said that there are various ways of training. There can be certification, etc. Is it mandatory? Are this kind of training mandatory about how to identify the hazards? If so, if they are mandatory, what kind of programs are there?
This is not mandatory, but strongly suggested by the Ministry of Education, and also in the work-oriented jobs directory. When you see the description of skills, I saw just one example from the stock handler. There is also performance criteria provided to teachers. And in this criteria, they must evaluate the student with this criteria. So how they are fast at work, or they are on time at work, or they are. And in this performance criteria, you have the apprentice must respect occupational and safety rules. It's the only place where you see a kind of mandatory suggestion, but it's not. School have strong obligation to place the student in the right job and evaluate the risk. There's no about that, and it's why we work a lot with the ministry and with the stakeholders to provide tools. But yes, there is room for improvement.
충분히 대답이 되셨나요? 네. 또
Did you get your answer? Any other questions?
네, 안녕하세요. 저는
Hello, I am working with occupational cancer patients in the semiconductor industry. In Korea, you have the semiconductor industries and clusters which are expanding. And we even have semiconductor high schools, which means that many students will be working in those factories, which is a big concern. So it seems that you do interview the employers, you interview the teachers, and it seems that the Ministry of Education is also involved, and the teachers are actually monitoring the workplaces. It seems so. I'm quite envious of that kind of situation in Canada. So it's a situation that's unimaginable. So how were you able to attain all of that?
It's a huge question. We don't attain that, but we try. Our team were strongly supported by the Canadian Foundation of Cancer. So they are really keen to founded the research to develop early prevention programs. But I think we must also work on regulation and more on training the trainers also, because a lot of teachers have strictly no training about occupational cancer, even in occupational health and safety. So we have a lot of work to do still. So I don't know if I understand well the question.
일단 예산 지원이 먼저 돼야 되는 것 같습니다.
I think we need some budget and investment. We do have cancer-related organizations in Korea too. So there was one more person. Please be brief, and then we'll go straight on to the next presentation. I'm studying economics at the Seoul National University. So it's actually not a short question. I'm a bit worried. Can I just go ahead anyway? So I'm curious to know, well, in Korea, we have vocational high schools, and there is a lot of concern about the safety and health of those students. On one hand, the student workers, well, there's a big argument of which ministry is responsible for the health and safety of those students. Is it the Ministry of Education, or is it the Ministry of Health, etc.? And there is a budget allocated to high schools. And so when there is financial support to the high schools, they want to see good employment. And so it seems that that's why the teachers don't really voice out the risky aspects. They just focus on increasing the percentage of those becoming a job, getting a job. And so I would like to hear from you what the situation is like in Canada, if there are differences that you see in the two countries.
I think it's pretty similar because at school they are very concerned about qualifying students. And those students in the work-oriented training path, you cannot choose this path because you don't like school. You are enrolled in this program only if you have school delays. So they all have learning difficulties. So it's another layer of constraint. For them, they very want to succeed the introduction to workplace, because without job, you are poor, you cannot access the same right of the rest of the population. So their first goal is they aim to get enough skilled to go working after their school. And occupational health and safety is the 10th priority after a lot of other, and it's why work disability prevention must combine occupational health safety and introduction, well-being at work and introduction to labor market. So preventing the unemployment is also work disability prevention. So we have to manage this both part of the problem.
네, 한국하고 상황이 많이 틀린 것 같은데 우리 좀 이따
Okay, there seems to be still some differences which I think we can discuss later on in the discussion session. So that'll be it for the first presentation. We're going to go on to the second presentation now.